So we've had kind of this smart interns for 2 years now. Well, this is the year that we finally give them a checklist, a badge, and a job, right?
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your no-fluff guide to artificial intelligence in higher ed. I'm Mallory Willsea, bringing nearly 20 years of edtech and marketing expertise straight to your earbuds. Higher ed leaders are expected to master AI overnight, but let's be real, no one has time to sift through every headline, hot take, or research report. That's why every Monday, I'll break down what actually matters, fast, clear, and to the point. Want to sound like the smartest person in the room at your next team meeting? You're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Higher Ed Pulse. Today's episode is about the moment AI stops helping and starts owning outcomes. Agentic AI isn't a tool anymore. It's a teammate, planning, executing, and delivering end-to-end workflows with real ROI. To unpack what that actually means in practice, I'm joined by Ardis Kadiu, the co-founder of AI Idea Lab, where he's focused on building the next generation of agentic AI systems. After more than a decade leading Element451 into the category-defining AI-powered CRM for higher ed, he's back in builder mode. His newest venture, Andy.AI, is inspired by life as a father of two and focused on creating AI tools designed for kids and the families guiding them into the AI era. Ardis, welcome to the Pulse.
It's so good to be here, Mallory. Thanks for having me.
So listeners don't know this. We've been catching up for the last 15 minutes off mic because I have not seen Ardis in a few months, and so much has changed for you, Ardis, as you headed into this new year. I caught your LinkedIn post in January where you announced Andy.AI, but this is my first time actually getting to ask you more about it. And I would love to just start there. What is Andy.AI? Where did the idea come from? And what is it looking to do?
Yeah. So Andy.AI, I mean, it's very personal for me. Obviously, as you know, Mallory, I've spent kind of the last decade or so with Element451 and kind of solving this problem of how do you guide students through these complex, high-stake journeys, and then how do you scale them? And now with Agentic AI, how do those feel personal to those students? So, we kind of came the last couple of years now, we've been building agents around that. And then I'm thinking, okay, can we take that and how do we bring it to the family, right? How do we kind of bring it to my kids? I realized that the same problems exist in my own home, but times two. Now I have two kids. And I have my 13-year-old and my 10-year-old, my 11-year-old son, and they're going to use AI every day for the rest of their lives. And that's not really a question, but right now they're using ChatGPT for homework, and I guess it's fine. But ChatGPT doesn't know my daughter struggles with fractions, for example, last month, and he doesn't remember my son learns better with examples. So it has no continuity, no memory. And at the end of the day, I can't see what else they're asking ChatGPT. So I'm like, damn, there's got to be, a better way. And that's kind of where the idea of Andy kind of came about, right? So I wanted my kids, and I wanted to build this for them, like an AI companion that actually knows them, it remembers their journey, kind of grows with them over time. And of course, the most important thing, it kind of keeps me as the parent in the loop. So it's like guidance, guardrails, and the personalization and oversight that's missing from all the other AI. And then the other thing that as we kind of thinking about this and start, I'm like, okay, this is great. But then I'm like, okay, reminder, and my wife, she's like the chief reminder officer. It's like, you gotta remember, you gotta do this, you gotta bring this to school. Remember that today you have gym, you remember? And then we talk about this problem with our friends as well. And they have exactly the same problem. Like my friend Candace, she goes on vacation for a few days. She has 3 pages that she has to give their babysitters to say, okay, take the twins here. They got, they got practice. They got this. So the whole idea of an AI that kind of build specifically for families, like so that Andy resolves both of those things, right? It's an AI with memory that actually knows the family. For kids, it's a companion that grows with them, and then for families, it's kind of the operating system that kind of understands everything, and it kind of nudges kids. It reminds them. It kind of puts everything together. It shares information with caregivers, etc. So I don't know if that kind of gives you a little bit of context, but this is it's something that I feel like it's a bigger problem and something that I'm really excited to kind of keep building.
Well, families are busier than ever before. And, what you just described is like a nanny combined with a house administrative assistant combined with a tutor. And there's probably like 3 other layers there too that I missed, but that's just that's so interesting. Like, and the way you describe it on the site as like this lifelong partner for the family and for the kids, that really resonates. Like, I don't have kids, but I have a dog. And I think about every time I drop her off at the dog sitter, I got to do half the stuff you just said just to leave my dog behind. Like, so if your next venture could be to make this for pets, that would be really great, Ardis.
Well, pets are family
I'll
members
be your
too,
first
so
customer.
There you go.
I just don't need to teach my dog fractions, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, but... All right, well, let's get into our topic today. For the past 2 years, AI in higher ed has largely been framed as assistance, faster content, smarter chatbots, incremental productivity gains. That's all really useful, but there's limitations, right? And Agentic AI marks a real shift in how AI shows up inside the workplace. This isn't about a better chatbot or faster content. It's about systems that can plan, decide, and act across entire workflows with limited human input. So in practical terms, Agentic AI moves AI from helping with tasks to owning outcomes. Instead of drafting that email, the agent actually can run the full end-to-end process and monitor data and decide what matters. Humans set directions and agents execute them. 2026 is the inflection year, according to Ardis. Advances in long horizon planning, persistent memory, reliable tool use, and multi-agent coordination mean these systems can now handle really complex multi-step work without constant supervision. And we're going to dig into all that. Of course, we're going to ground this in our industry, higher education, and the implications are structural here. Think student communications that can adapt in real time based on behavior. Haven't we been talking about that for decades? Imagine advising and support workflows that intervene before students disengage. There are so many upsides. I'm sure there's some risks, and Ardis, there's nobody better to unpack this with than you. So, in our prep for today, you sent me this note where you said that this year is going to be ChatGPT's moment for agentic AI. And that resonated with me. And I think that's a great way to couch that, because a lot of us use ChatGPT. We understand what that means. So I love how you phrased that, but let's actually unpack it. Like, why? Why is 2026 the breakout year? What's actually happening?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that are kind of converging in 2026. Like last year, and even the years before, we were working with a lot of AI, and it's all about generation. So it was all about content generation. But now, agents actually act on the world, but in order to do that, they need to be really smart to understand the context and to kind of do things. So what's happening in 2026 is that first, the models are finally built for agentic AI. So the models over the last few years, they have been getting better and better and better. But what's happening is that these models today, including models from OpenAI with GPT 5.2, and also Anthropic with Claude Opus 4.5, we even just yesterday we got a new model that kind of broke all the agentic kind of benchmarks, which is Kimi 2.5. It's an open source model. So anyways, like, this is just a lot of technical stuff, but essentially these models, like, we have models that are specialized for long horizon planning. Basically what you call those is, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So it's essentially planning this workflow over and over. It also a reflection on it's like, okay, am I like thinking about it? Like I'm going to try something and I'm going to try something else and I'm going to use tools. And they are able to use these tools very, very reliably over thousands of turns without losing any of the context, which is super important, right? So think about it yourself. Like think about like when you're trying to accomplish like a project, and you kind of break that up into a lot of different tasks. But then as you start working on these tasks, you're like, you forget and you're like, you just lose track of that end goal. So these models are very similar, but until recently, we didn't have models that could kind of continue and keep track of that. If you remember, Mallory, you had like we had chat generations, and you asked it, okay, build me a campaign or build me something. And then you continue with some additional questions and steps, and pretty soon it just forgot everything that was prior to it, right? So now these models can kind of continue that trajectory a lot better. So that's number one. So the models are getting really, really good. Second, the infrastructure has really matured, right? So so models are one part of it. They're able to call tools, but then agents live in a world where we're calling them we're called like advanced, like harnesses, right? So this idea of how do you orchestrate the agent? How do you call the model? How do you put context in? How do you get data? What tools does it use? And then how do you save that memory in order to use it again? So that's not part of the model. It's kind of the harness, and it's the whole system. So the orchestration layer and kind of they're becoming really really sophisticated, and now we're at a place where we can kind of continue to utilize and call tools. You probably, I don't know if you've used like Cowork or even Claude Code or some of these tools, but they can run really long sessions and kind of persist. And then multi-agent setups have become really, really powerful as well. So that's number two. And then number three is that, of course, all of that uses a lot of tokens and uses a lot of intelligence, but this is probably the most important one, that the economics have flipped, right? So running an agent workflow that cost, like, let's say $50 18 months ago, or even 6 months ago, it would cost about $50 plus. Today, that can cost less than $1 or less than 50 cents. So the cost has come down tremendously. So now running this intelligent things becomes even more, reasonable. So that's kind of the combination of those three things. Essentially, 2026 is the agent year because we can afford it. It's smart enough, it's good enough, and it can actually do work. So think about, the way I like to say is like, so we've had kind of this smart interns for 2 years now. Well, this is the year that we finally give them a checklist, a badge, and a job, right? If you think about it that way.
Okay, so I'll admit, as you were talking, I'm like sitting here, I'm like, okay, I'm a Marcom person. And like a lot of things related to AI, sometimes I'm like, shit, do I need a PhD in order to be able to do this? Like, can I go build a agentic workflow for something that I'm doing right now? Or do I need to go hire somebody to do this for me?
Yeah. So the answer is no, you don't need to hire anybody. So there's so many of these platforms that have come up, and the tools, including ChatGPT, including Claude, for example. So Claude Code or Claude Cowork. So I don't know if you use the Anthropic version of ChatGPT, but they introduced Cowork, which is essentially an agentic model that runs and does tasks. So you can ask it to do something, and it has access to your computer. It has access to different tools. It will, save files. You'll read files. You'll do all kinds of things. So it's basically, with just prompting, you can actually build these agents that are doing the work in the background for you. You can go to Replit, and Replit also has an agent builder, so you can just ask it what to do. So there's a lot of different kind of apps that all you have to do is just describe, and it will actually build the agent in the background to do that job for you.
Quick pause, because this is too good not to share. The AI Engage Summit, brought to you by Element451, is coming up, and yes, it's 100% free and completely virtual. happening February 10th and 11th. This 2-day experience is built for higher ed leaders who want practical AI strategies, not buzzwords. We're talking real use cases, live demos, and frameworks you can actually put to work across enrollment, marketing, advising, and operations. Head over to element451.com or check out the link in the show notes and snag your spot. Now, let's get back to the show. So then maybe like everything I've ever experienced with AI, it is a matter of getting in and just starting and trying and learning. And that makes it feel so much more approachable. But I'd love to just crystallize this with an example or two, because we're talking about it pretty high level. Like, how are you actually integrating AI agents into your own work right now?
So as I'm back in builder mode, and one of the things that I've been doing now is obviously writing positioning statements and writing marketing content and writing spec documents for the product, and what you call PRDs, or product requirement documents, and writing code to actually start building. So coding today is essentially 100% done by agents and coding agents. So this is perhaps the most advanced agentic use cases that are being used by a lot of different companies. So I'm using Claude Code, I'm using Codex from OpenAI, I'm using Cursor. So all of these are essentially tools that they kind of wrap around these models, and they can they're agentic coding tools that you can start building. So I'm using all of those to start building and actually build the product. You know, personally, even before this, one of the things, like I did a lot of deep research. So deep research is an agentic, essentially it's an agentic workflow that kind of goes ahead, synthesizes information, brings more information in. So if you don't use the deep research tools in ChatGPT or Claude or even Gemini, I feel like you're missing out, because as I'm building this new product, like I'm like, holy shit, I have no idea how to, like, what's the best practice now to build a mobile app for B2C, or like what's even a business to consumer, marketing strategy, and how do you do that? Like, what's in trend now? So I need to do a lot of deep research in order to understand that. So learning has become so much more important around that.
I love the deep research function in ChatGPT. I don't think a day goes by that I am not like, if I just want to know something, I tend to turn to the deep research first now, because I know it's going to be so thorough. And so that's great that is an example that I'm sure a lot of listeners maybe are already using and already have into their workflows and didn't even realize that was agentic AI. So yeah, we can feel better. We're already 2 steps forward. But I'm sure you've got a lot of workflows, artists, that you used to touch all the time that now can mostly run without you. And yeah, I think a lot of people, they hear the word autonomy and sometimes like think that means, oh, you just set it and forget it. When in reality, it's like, no, there's some progression that has to happen there. Like where, I don't know, like, I don't know if there's a question in there, but like, what are some of those workflows?
Yeah. Well, I think email is solved, right? I would say email for sure. Like everybody, like every year we say, hey, there's a new email client and this email client does this and that. But I feel like today with agents, like email is solved. Like I don't know what email you use or email. It's like I use, obviously Gmail or the Google ecosystem, but like I use, let's say, Superhuman, which is a really interesting, but I've tried so many of these email organization tools with AI, and it will just read through your email. It will kind of automatically tag everything. You'll kind of bubble things up. You'll put things into folders for you based on some of the things that you told it. You'll remember, how you responded, and it will just write drafts for you. So I feel like email is solved today. Like if you're still going in and you're deleting email manually or you're organizing stuff manually, I mean, you have to like go back and take a look at that one more time, because that's that's a
Who
productivity.
really likes doing that? Nobody, right? Like there's solutions out there now, people.
Yeah. It can feel sometimes very, you feel like you're accomplishing something when you're like, yes, I deleted 50 of them, but it's like, oh man,
False accomplishments. Yeah.
A little dopamine hit there for sure.
Yeah.
And then the other part is, the things that we have conversations, but this idea of it's like, well, how do you retain what's happening? So we've been doing meeting notes and digesting information, group meetings, outcomes out of that, and then research and follow up. Like that's solved as well. So you have tools like obviously personally I use Granola or Notion. Like they kind of record meetings. They don't even have to come to the room to record that stuff anymore, right? So it's like it's just happening on your phone. You have it on your mobile, and then you essentially have a conversation. I go to the doctor and I record the conversation is recorded, and so now I can go back and ask questions around it. It's like I'm like I don't remember what the doctor said, but can you please like tell me like what the hell was bilateral blah blah blah. I'm like I have no idea so so those things are kind of solved now. And then if you're working with teams, just having that recording of your conversation with the team, even in person or whatever, and going back and saying synthesize, pull insights, do all this. So that workflow is just so much easier. Like I don't even have to do like I have automations that kind of go ahead and do that and kind of bubble up all the follow-ups that I need to do for the day based on the conversation and so on and so forth. And then the last one that I'm like, that used to take a lot of time was this idea of like, because I do a lot of analysis around businesses. So I look a lot of financial reports or pitch decks and things like that. Now that I'm on the other side, more board stuff or like evaluating businesses, new companies, and kind of the deep research there, or essentially looking through these decks. Man, it's just so easy now. Like you can kind of go through this agentic workflows, even in Claude or Cowork. You can look at all these documents. You can analyze it. You can figure out even more complex and analysis around financial statements. Like all of that stuff is solved, right? I don't feel like you need to do that manually anymore. It's just become so much easier. We can go on and on, but like those are some of the top ones.
Yeah, those are great. And I've got a great example for you. I've been running buyer research to build out buyer personas and infuse the customer voice into messaging. In fact, you know this well because I ran that same project when I started at Element451. And gosh, I've done this at multiple companies now. And every time my process was the same, right? I had to do the interviews and pray to God that the meeting actually recorded, and then somehow figure out how to get a transcript out of it. And then I'd take that transcript, literally print it out, start circling things, highlighting it, cut. I remember I was sat at my desk, Ardis, not even my desk. I was in my dining room table with the printouts, and I started cutting, and I was like organizing everything all over the table. I think I sent you a photo of it at one point because I was like, "This is like the hell I'm living right now." Like
crazy,
I have paper everywhere. I killed an entire forest for the buyer research. I have been able to do all of that in this past month simultaneously with two different companies, and the insights are better because I have AI helping me analyze those transcripts. Like every step of the process, I've used AI, and it has become infinitely faster and infinitely better because I can, use agentic AI to assist me kind of every step of the way. And so I'm like living that reality right now. It's also helping me keep the two clients straight, which is nice.
Yes, exactly. It's like, no, this is what you said, and this is exactly where that came from. So yeah, kind of the citation is really important.
Condensed. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. One recommendation around that is now, the time constraint is like you set up meetings with customers, and then you can only interview only a certain amount of people. Now, Imagine you can interview the whole organization, right? And you don't have to do that yourself. You can have an agent actually do a voice conversation with all the questions and ask them, all those questions. So now rather than having, 10 interviews, you can have, 100, 1,000 interviews, and then you can have even more insight around that. But that's kind of the ability of AI to kind of scale work out. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, the next client I do this buyer research with, maybe I will send Agentic Mallory out to interview all of their customers.
There you go.
I love that idea. I love that we're talking about all these great examples. And I know that so many of the Pulse listeners are living a reality where they're a team of one or two on their campus. They don't have a huge budget or a fancy innovation lab. So for that person listening, where's the first place that agentic AI might actually make sense for them to start experimenting with this year?
I mean, so there's a lot of different places, right? But like I said, just take those, routine stuff that you're doing every day, the inquiry or the inquiry responses that folks are doing or handling kind of those student questions. I think that's the first place to kind of look at. So just, Google right now or even Microsoft Copilot, like you have tools that can automatically look at your email and they can kind of have responses to student questions or so I would say that's probably the first thing that you can take a look at. It's high volume, low risk, low stakes, I would say, at this point. So and of course there's other tools that you can start using to automate some of the content creation. Obviously we've been talking about this for a number of years now, but this notion of how do you connect that tool to something that can take action, like that's important. But sending messages, it's the number one thing that you can probably do right now. So automating messaging.
Do you have any recommendations for like, do we have to map our work differently so that it is ready for agents? Or are there like certain signals in someone's day to day that should be like a big green flag, like, hey, this is ready to be delegated to an agent?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's so when you're mapping work to agents, like don't ask like, hey, what job can AI do, right? But ask like, what are the tasks that AI can own specifically? And you think about it like 3 R's. Think 3 R's, right? Repetitive. So you do it more than 3 times a week. So if a task is repetitive, is it rule based? Meaning like you could write down decision logic even if it's nuance. It's like if this then that, or like we always do this thing. When this happens, and it's like, and then record heavy. So think about like you just mentioned, like you need to spread out everything on tables in order to get this interview. So it's like record heavy. You have to look up a lot of stuff. So it involves like pulling or updating information from different systems or documents or unstructured stuff. So if it's repetitive, rule-based, and record heavy, like this is an amazing way to think about, agents and automation and AI there. And then you think about the signals. It's like, I always do X before Y, or every time I get this email, I do this. I spend 30 minutes just gathering info that I need for this decision. So any tasks that you can kind of dread and tedious, like you can do it with there. So that's kind of how you can think about it. But what kind of ways do you think about it?
I the repetitive is always top of the list. If I start doing something manually, more than once, I'd say like, yeah, more than once a week, I'm like, all right, I need I need a GPT for that, or I need to figure out a different workflow for this at this point. And you know what? It's a lot of the boring stuff. Like it's not flashy. Like everything you were just describing, like it's the stuff that honestly we hate doing as humans every single day. I hate reading my email. Like my husband yells at me because half the time I don't read my email. And, once I've been able to find ways to bring AI into that, like it's really changed how I operate. And I think it's that like boring stuff that changes how the organization operates as well. Ardis, as we're wrapping up here, like we haven't talked about measurement yet. And I'm curious, how should, from your perspective, a team really measure whether or not an agent is working? And I think one of the obvious things is, are you getting time back in your day? And we've been talking about that for years in terms of, the ability for, especially someone on campus, to be able to stop doing all of that repetitive, boring crap and go actually re-engage with students, right? So we can check that box, but like outside of that, how can a team really measure like, okay, this is delivering some real ROI for us versus like, oh, this is just this cool thing that we're doing now?
Yeah. So 2026, when you look at organizations and a lot of the reports that are coming out and kind of organizations adopting AI right now, folks are not looking at it as productivity boosters anymore. So productivity booster stuff is kind of gone out of the window. It just doesn't It doesn't work very well. So they're thinking about it in terms of ROI. Like, what is the ROI that we're getting out of this? So there's three tiers kind of that measurement. You think about activity metrics, like you have your baseline and how many tasks did it complete? So like this is the AI. How often did it fail or need human intervention, right? So that's a tier of measurement when you think about agents, are they working or how do you measure it? The second is around efficiency. We talked about efficiency metrics, right? So this is the real test. It's like time saved per workflow, right? So the cost per completed task versus a human baseline. So you think about like the volume handled without adding headcount, right? That's the component so it's like the equivalent of like the human that's doing a work. It's not, is this human like 50% more efficient, but it's like, is the AI doing the actual work, which is the equivalent of a human, right? And then the third one, it's an outcome metric, right? This is the goal metric. So think about the outcome, and this can be a little bit bigger. It's like, okay, did the inquiry response time go down, or did the conversion stay flat or improve? Did we handle more volume without sacrificing quality? So that's the outcome or the goal based part. So the ROI versus cool test is like cool. People demo it at a meeting. It's great. It's kind of fancy. But when you think about the ROI, it's like people would just like kill you if you take it away from them now, right? That's what's really kind of interesting.
That's a good pressure test.
Yeah.
So my last question for you, Ardis, like I know back at Element, we were ahead. We were early on AI in so many ways. And I want to give you a moment to just look back and reflect for a second. I'm kind of curious what you think you got wrong about maybe how fast we could all move around AI, because we moved fast at Element, but could everybody keep up? Like where did we get things wrong?
Yeah. I guess looking back at it, it's like technology was the easy part, right? And then people is the hard part. So we overestimated how fast technology was going to be adopted and kind of what it was going to do, and like underestimated the change management part. I think the change management was really interesting. So the AI worked, like we knew it worked, but getting people to trust it, kind of change their workflows, and then really let go of that control was just so difficult. And that's kind of what we're facing with higher ed today. So that was the real bottleneck for us. And again, like the technology was the easy part. Like we felt like we had it and we did have it. So that's why like they're focusing quite a bit on terms of like ROI and showing trust and showing like, okay, like your peers are actually getting results. The other thing was kind of the governance gap, right? There's this, institutions, like they weren't prepared. And it's like you bring a technology tool or you bring AI and you feel like, okay, this is transformational. You have to rethink about everything. And then they just weren't prepared. It's like they needed policies, frameworks, approval chains. Then none of that existed, like legal, IT security, faculty governance. Like everyone needed to weigh in, and it just takes time no matter how good the tech is, right? So we underestimated like that gap there. And then, so most recently, though, like as I was leaving, like one of the things we're starting to do a lot around this ROI was kind of a lot of pilots, right? And kind of like we just misjudged that pilot, like this pilot purgatory, I call it. So schools are like it would pilot something successfully, right? But then like they would struggle to kind of scale the pilot, or like they'll test something out. But then, the champion really held it together, but it just couldn't move it from, it works for kind of, John's team, but it, like, how do we operationalize it? And so that was really interesting. That's a really interesting problem, right? And of course, it kind of gets amplified in higher ed because of all the silos, right? So it's like, it becomes really interesting. But look, I'm really bullish for 2026, right? Institutions have done the hard governance work. Like there's no institution out there today, I believe, that hasn't really thought about, where things are. The policies kind of exist now. And if they don't, then like, just get them done. really quick.
Get on it.
Get on it.
Get on it now.
Yeah. And like a lot of champions have kind of won these internal battles, right? Even they've seen kind of the ROI externally. So they're getting a lot of like this tailwind from the external world as well. The infrastructure, I feel like it's ready. And kind of the early adopters paid the tax a little bit because they had to be like the Pied Pipers of the world. Like they had to like tell everybody, it's like, okay, the evangelist, like this is, so they're putting their reputation on the line, but now adoption can accelerate, everything else. And I feel like 2026, it's kind of that year where you're going to see a lot more than just tasks of productivity, but more on the ROI side actually being delivered for campuses.
Yeah. So friends, if you're listening right now, and regardless of whether or not you're self-identifying as that early evangelist or someone who's still kind of living in that messy middle of change management and getting your campus ready, like if you are feeling after you just listened to Ardis for the last half hour, like, okay, how do I actually go do this? Maybe you're inspired. Maybe you're hyped up now to make 2026 your year of AI. Good news, tomorrow the AI Engage Summit kicks off and it is hosted by Element451. This is 2 days of practical sessions on using AI, real demos, use cases, and takeaways that you can apply immediately. It is free, it is virtual, you can do it in your pajamas, and there's still time to register up until that event actually closes. So head over to element451.com or just grab the link in the show notes. I promise you will not regret it and you will absolutely learn something. Ardis, before I let you go, where can people find you these days?
So I'm on LinkedIn, even though I haven't been active on LinkedIn for the past month. It's just kind of been on builder mode. So if
you've been working.
Yeah, that's
Wait,
right.
where's your Agentic AI agent? Like, come on, apply it to LinkedIn. Let's go, Ardis.
So the other place you can find me is Andy.AI. So Andy.AI is kind of the website for Andy. It's going to be updated, but if you're interested, go ahead and kind of sign up for the wait list, and we'll kind of keep you updated as the product and the app kind of becomes available over the next few months.
Incredible. Andy.AI, y'all. Run, don't walk. Ardis, it was so good to reconnect with you. I really wish you all the best when it comes to this new venture and look forward to hopefully getting to see you out and about sometime later this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mel.
All right, folks. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.